Hello. I think it's like Monday, right? Yeah, but kind of a chill Monday for me. And we're going to pull something and see if there's a topic for us to discuss today. Maybe pull some more things if that's appropriate. We'll see. Distance travel. So whenever I get this, distance travel, obviously it could just mean a long distance travel or a travel of any distance, really, right? It doesn't say long. But in terms of like how I perceive it, it feels like this travel to another timeline, another dimension, using the Rainbow Bridge, right? Like traveling over a distance, which would involve taking the high road. Yeah, that's feeling appropriate and right for this because like I just had a day yesterday where I was just interacting with some people who had activations happen around me, which happens quite a bit. If someone has a lot of shadow and I'm around them a lot, it's usually going to come to light if it's something I've healed already, because I'm just by being, my energy kind of like shines a light on it. And so this did happen, and you know, it's not my favorite experience, but Spirit told me that this was going to happen, and I didn't have to do anything to, I wasn't part of it. I was just like there while two people this was happening to them. And unfortunately, in retrospect, I did ask Spirit about like, well, what was my role there? Because like I felt really overwhelmed during the whole scenario. I felt like I do not want to be dealing with this. I do not want to be dealing with two people who are in a trigger, out of their minds, and acting like children, that are wounded. Because you can't get through to somebody, right? If they don't want to be gotten through to. And usually these people don't listen to me. But I still was trying to do the steps of healing, right? Acknowledge, validate, accept, and love. I was trying to do that, but I could not get past acknowledging it. They would not acknowledge their own stuff. And this is ego, right? This is their protective mechanism saying, I'm projecting this, okay? This isn't mine. It's that person's fault. And so I couldn't initiate the healing process, but I did try. And then I consulted my oracle after, just kind of saying, like, is there anything you need me to like note about that whole situation? Because I didn't get triggered. I knew that was a good progress for me. But I also felt like, what was the point of me even, And it's like it could have just been a soul contract. But what was focused on when I asked was that it was a missed opportunity for me, meaning there was something I could have done to help that situation heal. And I didn't catch on to it. I didn't know. And I still don't know. Except for with one of the parties, which, there was a breaking away to give space at my urgence and pleading. And one of the parties I took away, in our discussion there, there was a lot of like settling down and coming back down to center, right? And then this decision by that party to take the high road. And I was so, honoring that process for them and thankful also because, I didn't want to see this escalate. It very well could have, because they had to come back together at another point after this activation. So distance travel, it's like going the distance to take the high road. A distance is in astrology recognized in the 9th house, long distance travel. And the 9th house also encompasses our higher knowledge and our wisdom. So this card makes me think of that, of taking the high road, distance travel. So maybe you know of a situation that you've witnessed recently or been a part of where someone or yourself was required to take the high road. And passions were high and it was chaotic, right? But chaos is the space of creation. I love this reading so far because I know I'm going to read it like it's for you, but I know there'll be stuff in here for me afterwards. And I love that I get to read it for you because then I can get my biases as out of the way as possible. Okay, so Eris is what came out next. Eris is the goddess of discord and chaos, right? And that's what we're talking about here. This situation that required the high road to be taken was also a space of creation. Chaos of the space of a creation. Creation comes from nothing. It comes from chaos. It comes from a lack of order, which is what was being experienced when those two people were activated, and I was witness to it. And I was part of it, right? Because my energy was there too, probably provoking this to happen. It was an opportunity for creation out of this chaos, right? It's like if we want to create something better, old structures do have to come down. We got reprioritize. So in my example, my priority at that time was like, let's not escalate this. I have seen plenty of situations that end up in an escalation of proportions that cause thousands of dollars worth of damage, that cause arrests, that cause court cases, that cause violence, and at the very least cause people saying things that are very harsh and mean and that they can't easily recover from. So my priority for this situation was to separate. Let's take some space, because the problem why I couldn't get anyone to take the first steps of healing is because they were continuously projecting. And if I were to acknowledge and validate one, the other would be getting more agitated while I was doing that for the other. But both were actually going to be acknowledged and validated, but it's just like I tried doing it at once for both of them, but it didn't stop anything. We couldn't get past that because then it came to validate each one. And then while I was validating one, the other couldn't take it, right? Their ego kind of flared at what appeared to them that I was taking sides, which I wasn't, because I was about to validate them too. But they couldn't know that. So this is like the chaos that was happening, right? So this is kind of saying reprioritize. So what could my priority have been that that would have gotten, more productive result? Maybe this will reveal that to us. Understand. There's something to understand here. Now we have travel again. Remember I said I took one of the parties and I traveled with them. But they also decided to travel the high road. This is a cycle. That's what an activation is. It's a loop of energy playing out again. Like a PTSD reaction. It's like, oh, you just triggered me into acting like at the age I was when this boo-boo thing happened to me that I've been storing in my energy body, and you just poked it. And now I'm going to play that out. I'm going to act like that age. And I didn't have the skills to handle this at that age, and that's why I'm acting this way. But, the thing is, now they are old enough. Now they do have the skills, right? And I think that's why we were able to de-escalate it, even though it wasn't easy. Rather than escalate it. Now, so it's recognizing that this is a cycle, right? Like this is just a karma, an energy that keeps playing out. And now it's saying illusion. So there's something of an illusion about this situation. A breakthrough. I wonder if that's the illusion. Let's see. Whole sign, meaning there's another view and honor. Like, I use honor instead of pride, right? Like maybe, in typical cultural ways of dealing or talking about situations, like this wouldn't be my someone's proudest moment when a fight broke out or whatever. When I say fight, it didn't get a physical. It was mostly just a tense exchange of misunderstandings. But like that has to be honored. In my world, all of that's honored, because say this does pose a situation where an opportunity is provided for a genius way of healing a situation like this. A genius way of alchemizing this energy between two people who are both in cycles of their own, that have activated each other in cycles, and there's a third neutral person looking at it who is a healer, who has healed these both of those wounds in themselves. You know, there's got to be a way. And so this is an honorable situation. All parties are honored for this contribution to the potential. We've got Leo and limited view. Yeah, obviously there's a limitation on the view that I have of this situation. And I think it definitely, you know, even though I said I didn't get triggered, I can see now in just talking about this that it definitely had to have activated in me something that just kind of felt powerless to change it, right? Because I didn't use a growth mindset to address it. I tried the skills I knew, and then I just kind of went, oh, that's not working. I don't know what to do, and we got to get everyone away from each other. Instead of going, okay, if that didn't work, there's got to be something else, and like asking God in that moment, you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. So God, what could I have done different in that situation? What could I have done different in that situation? We've got rest, DC, which is other people, spiritual, new role. Yeah, I get that. Melpomene, which is dramatic endings and grief. Eros, passion. Fifth harmonic, gifts and creativity. Yeah, a creative. And Elpis, hope. Okay. I mean, it doesn't, all right, let's go back to reading it as if it's for you. God, what could they do in this situation? Reprioritize your own place in this situation. Like, is this even your business? Is this something that you should be involved in? Is this something that you want to walk away from? Aren't there more beautiful, creative ways that you want to spend your energy? Must you be involved with this? You know, it's interesting because before I did this thing yesterday, the night before I knew I was going to be doing this, and the plans were set, and I needed to honor the plans because I told somebody I would do the thing. But I also asked my oracle, I said, hey, anything I should know about this plan for tomorrow? I'm kind of excited about it. And my oracle said, change of plans, 8th house. And I was like, oh. I mean, which told me, like, 8th house is shadows, you know, triggers that can be triggered. And change of plans obviously means that whatever I have planned and think is going to be happening, something different is going to be happening. And that is definitely what happened. Something different. We did not do the plan that we had made. Okay, so we got new timeline here. And, like, what I feel like is, like, okay, I'm kind of getting this idea to revisit this spiritually, like a shaman would do, right? Like, go into that moment etherically and kind of bring the energy down a notch and rewrite the experience. Use the illusion that you have access to rewrite this experience, right? So I'm going to give you another example of something that happened with me. One time, I had a falling out with my boyfriend. And it was a quite explosive one in that I yelled at him and I was angry because I felt he was cheating. I mean, now I giggle because it's like, if you felt he was cheating, you didn't have to fight with him about it. You didn't have to yell at him about it. You could just leave. Back then I didn't know that, right? I was invested in him and believed in him and believed all these lies that he was telling me about how we were meant to be together and blah, blah, blah. So, I wasn't ready to go grow up. But anyway, so it was very unusual for that to happen too. I was never like that. But because this happened, he was probably really surprised because I never did that. And we were apart for 2 weeks. So in these 2 weeks, whatever, I dealt with myself. And then I got to a point and I was in a really good place in my spiritual journey. And I did a meditation and I went and I relived that moment that I yelled at him and maybe broke things off or whatever. And instead I rewrote the story as if I had said, I feel a little overwhelmed. I'm going to go home and maybe we can talk later. Instead of having it out right then, I said, I recognize that I could have done it differently. And instead of like escalating the situation and from the triggered space I was in, I could have talked to him later if I went home and calmed down first, right? So in my imagining the scenario, I took the high road. And before I was even done doing this meditation, still laying on my bed, my phone rings and it's him. We hadn't talked in 2 weeks since that thing. So as soon as I rearranged the energy on that story, it opened the pathway up for him. So I feel like this is what it's saying here. Like, revisit that. And we've talked about etheric travel, right? Taking the high road. And it's like, go back into that scenario. Honor that it happened how it is. Like, this isn't like going in with a judgment, right? Like, I didn't judge myself. That's not how I changed it. I just said, oh, well, now that I know what I know, I honor that I was in that state, but I would do it this way. So it's kind of like that. And this even says rest. And I did that in a meditative state of rest, laying on my bed when I did it. And fifth harmonic, this is a gift that we have. Like it's called soul retrieval. It's shamanism. It's a spiritual process of rearranging the timeline, of gaining access to a different timeline. And even though you can't see it, even though you feel like it's just like a imaginary thing you're doing, it actually does. Your imagination, your mind's imagery is the way that you direct energy. It's the way you speak to energy. That's the language that energy can understand. Like if you have a strong mind and very potent focus, these are the minds that can move things with their mind. They can start fires. They can implant thoughts. They can have telepathy and things like this, right? So it's saying use this process to go back to that scenario, whatever it is for you, that provides this opportunity to reprioritize, right? So my new priority for that whole situation that I was in might not be that I'm going to be the one to like handle it all for everyone, right? Like maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just that I do it telepathically, or maybe the way the thing started between these two people was so silly that I just go and solve the issue for them. And then like they can deal with their own moods after that, because the issue that they're pointing at each other for is not even there, so they have a better chance of seeing it. Something like that, right? Like feel like give myself a new role in that scenario, right? And then let them process their emotion, because my presence, if I'm not trying to convince them that we can acknowledge and validate and accept their boo-boos, then my new role can just be to be present with them and their grief, them and their boo-boo. Just presence is so powerful. Gosh, I love this, and I feel so moved by this reading. And empowered, right? I feel empowered. So, Spirit, anything else about this situation before I end this recording and go do a meditation for it? Anything else? Fourth house, home. Make this change on a foundational level, right? When I do this, this is a role I want to be in going forward. I don't want to be the referee. I want to be the presence in any of those kind of situations, right? It's so much more powerful. I've got 1 day and 180 days. I think this is saying, like, you could do it for anything that's happened in the last 6 months. Soul contract. Third house, communication, and Ara, war. Wow. Wow. It's like a soul contract to navigate this war through the mind, through this communication that I am going to have with the etherics, with the timeline, with the energy of my soulmates, who are people that I was in contact with who are having this situation play out. And it's kind of like they agreed to do that in my presence, right? So that I would have the opportunity to reassign my role in situations where war is happening. Yes. Yes, because I don't want to be the referee. I don't want to be in the ring. I could be the ring, instead of the referee in the ring, and, yeah, just holding space for their process, maybe just like eliminating the issue that they're pointing fingers at each other for, so that they realize, like, their own grief. Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. And if you find that this is a nice creative skill that you have as well, let me know how your experiment goes. I would love to connect with other like-minded beings who are looking to go in this direction when it comes to dealing with war and solving war, right? Because, like, if I'm willing to be a referee to a war, that's not an energy that I really want to perpetuate for myself in my life, right? That's going to put me in more and more situations where I'm going to act as this referee. And I'm actually a much more neutral presence because I understand both sides. I understand that they both have their reasons for acting like this, right? I understand they're both little hurt children who are trying to realize and reparent themselves through a difficult wound. If I'm a mother type energy, it's to both of them, not one or the other. Even if one is doing something really horrible, like I've learned unconditional love, and I can love someone who's even doing something violent or being really mean, or, you know what I mean? Because, like, that's just what my life showed me. Like, I'm capable of that. I'm capable of that kind of presence and that kind of love and that kind of understanding. It doesn't mean I condone or accept any of that treatment for myself or of myself or anything like that. It just means that, we're all God's children, and I love God's children, Yeah. All right.